good morning to one and all. I am Kranth and I will be teaching you today about Introduction to Photoshop. Yes, when I speak about Introduction to Photoshop, what is that we are going to learn in Photoshop and what is Photoshop and how to use Photoshop, I will be guiding you on that. Alright, so let us see what is a basic Photoshop, or let us learn what is a Photoshop. Well, Photoshop is basically a software which is used to edit, to cut or to replace any of the things and to do a lot of photo works. For example, you want to cut a face or you want to edit a document or you want to do anything. See, nowadays in this generation Photoshop is mandatory, isn't it? So yes, Photoshop is something which is an ocean where we can do anything and we can use anything in Photoshop. And when I speak about Photoshop, make sure Photoshop is an upgraded versions. I mean, it's an updating software where, when I have learned Photoshop, I have learned CS3 and we have versions till CS8 and now CS10 is also on the market. So I will be telling you Adobe Photoshop CS7. So let us see how exactly the Photoshop look like, or what is the interface of the Photoshop, or how to open a Photoshop, or how to install a Photoshop, or how exactly the Photoshop runs. So today I am going to just tell you what is Photoshop and what are the how to use a Photoshop. Alright, so let us see the interface of the Photoshop. So let us see the slide here. Adobe Photoshop CS6 is a popular image editing software that provides a work environment consistent with Adobe Illustrator, Adobe InDesign, Adobe Photoshop and other products in the Adobe Creative Suite. This tutorial is an introduction to using Adobe Photoshop. Here you will learn how to get started, how to use the interface, and how to modify images with basic editing skills. So as I said this is the definition of the Photoshop. That means why exactly we use Photoshop and how exactly the Photoshop can be useful in our daily life. Alright, so I'll just show you how exactly the interface of Photoshop CS7 looks like, okay, because I have installed that here. So let us see how it looks like. If you can see the slide here. So now I am taking to Adobe Photoshop. So this is the interface, how it looks like. So this is a non-colored Photoshop interface where you have the bar menu and everything in black and white combination, because I have kept it because it will be useful to look at and it will be useful to use. So this is the interface, and what do we have in the interface and how to use all this. So this is the main toolbar, and at Photoshop, the entire Photoshop runs through this. I mean, this is the main component in the Photoshop, because without this the Photoshop can never be understood, because if this toolbox can be learned properly, or if this toolbox can be notified, all these tools are mandatory to learn. So I will be telling you very quick on how to use them all in these classes, in the upcoming classes. And we have layer command panel where we can basically put layers, and then we have channels, and then we have paths. And what is this box? I will tell you, don't worry about it. And then we have the things that we have done, and then we have color bar. So these are the basic inbuilt interface of the Photoshop, and let us see what is Photoshop and how it is exactly used. Alright. So now when I speak about Photoshop, where can you find the Photoshop in your computer, or how to open the Photoshop is something which is very mandatory. So when I speak about how to open a Photoshop, begin by opening Adobe Photoshop CS whatever it is on a PC. Click start, go to programs, and then just by clicking Photoshop, or click on the shortcut on the desktop, so that you can just go and directly open it. Alright, so that's what I have said you, where can we find it. So if I minimize this, I'll just show you where we can actually find Adobe Photoshop. For example, this is Windows 10 software, so I can directly type here Adobe Photoshop, and we have Adobe Photoshop 7.0 which we are actually using right now. So this is Adobe Photoshop 7.0, and once we click on that, this interface is going to open. So this is the interface, and this is the basics, you know, where we can just use it and develop it, right? So this is the interface now, people. So now I'll just give you a basic idea about Photoshop and its usage. So here we have Photoshop setting up the document, that is opening up a document. Setting up your document correctly from the start will make your job much easier as you work through your project. This will require some advanced planning. For example, if your final output will be a brochure, you may need to set up your document to be horizontal and double sided. So what does that mean? For example, people, I'll take you to the Photoshop. So before we do anything, first mandatory thing that you have to remember is how exactly your document is being used. For example, you may have a project on A4 size paper, alright, A4 size is an international paper. So let us imagine you are creating a brochure on A4 size paper. So once you hit Control N on Photoshop, remember people, let us see the slide here. Let us see the screen, and you have File, New, and the shortcut is already mentioned here as Control plus N if I am not wrong, right? So let us say I am typing Control plus N. So there is a tab which have popped up, which you have to remember. This is the main opening of Photoshop, because if this is not coming, or if you are not putting up the proper details out here, you will not be able to do a proper project. So let us see, let us give a proper name here, that is APSSDC brochure, right? Very sorry, or APSSDC template, all right. So as I have said you, what size are we doing it? We are doing it in A4 size paper. So when you want to do that in A4 size paper, the only thing that you have to remember is go to preset sizes. You know, you have so many things in the preset sizes. For example, if I open this, we have letter, we have legal, we have tabloid, 2x3, 4x6, 5x7 and 8x10, and then the resolutions on what you exactly see. The highest images, for example, if you want HD images or you want to create an amazing wallpaper, you can work on 1024x768. And then we have web banner, and then you have international papers, that is A4, A3, B5, B4, B3. So we are working on A4 size paper, so let us click on that. So here if you can see, when I have typed A4 or when I have clicked A4, the width, the height and the resolution has been obviously taken, right? And then you can give the transparency or background color. So let it be white, because white is a helpful background for us. So I am putting on OK. So we got A4 size paper out here, which we are going to do the editing on. So here is the basic A4 size paper that we are going to work on. So people, first I just want you to remember Control plus N. I'll go back for you once again. So we have basically one of the documents here, and then you can unlock it. So this is a basically background which we can make it transparent, or which we can make sure it is not there too. So let us not do that now. Let us learn how to open a document first. Alright, so it is just by simply Control N, people, and once you type Control N, you can title whatever you want. Alright, so I have given APSSDC. So this is by creating a document and you are working on A4 size. So okay, so we have two A4 size papers here and you can work on that. All right. So this is what you can do it. And once remember people, if you have maximized anything, for example, if you double clicked in the interface, you can only see this, isn't it? So I just want to tell you where can you and how can you minimize this or maximize it. Here we have a small tab where you will be displayed that, and once you click that you can also find the other one. So there are two here which we have opened. Let us close one. Alright, so let us work on this A4 size paper, and I am double clicking on the menu bar so that it will just maximize. And people, remember, if you are not convenient enough with the space of this, just make sure you hit, okay, I'll give a basic understanding about Photoshop. So let us open a Word, Microsoft Word we have. So I'll be telling you the shortcuts. First I have said you Control plus N, which is actually to open a new tab. Alright, please remember Control plus N. So this is the first thing that you have to remember. Alright, so I'll make sure I put it little bigger so that you people can understand. I think everybody can see this. Control plus N is the first command that you have to remember, people. So yes. So let me take you with the interface of Photoshop once again. And if you are not convenient enough with the space in the Photoshop, Control plus is required to maximize and minimize. Control plus is used to maximize, Control minus is used to minimize the button. For example, if you want to work on the minute parts of the screen, you just have to hit Control plus so that it will take you to the maximization of your project file. So always remember, these two are the most important things that you have to remember, because whenever you're working you can't literally use cursor, because Photoshop is a software which hardly will be used on only keyboard. You know, keyboard is the main thing that you have to concentrate whenever you're using on the shortcuts of the Photoshop. Alright, so as usual Photoshop is used by keyboard and its main components. Okay, so though we are actually in the basics of Photoshop, we can use mouse, we have no problem. So let us see the screen here. We have Photoshop and its controls. So Control plus is to maximize and Control minus is to minimize. You can minimize to the core, no problem, and you can maximize by Control plus. So this will help you in, for example, I have given a line, let us imagine, and okay, I am putting on the color into it. I have put the color. So you know, I'll just make sure that you know this color is, yeah, for example, let us imagine I have given another small thing and I'll give a very basic thing. For example, if we are not able to work on this, so what you'll do, you'll be doing Control plus. See, now I can work on this. So if I want to give a text on it, I'll just give a text. And let us put the font color as white and I'll type APSSDC. So we have the text here, which you can put it here. So for the alignment I'm using, I have used APSSDC, and right, I'm just using another duplicate. and another duplicate. So I'll tell you how to make duplicates and all, but before let us see the editings that we have been doing in the Photoshop. So now I'll minimize it. Can you see how much have we gone inside and outside? Or if you want to come back to the normal side, Control plus 0. For example, you have gone so deep, so deep, so deep, so deep that you can't even find where the file is. So now what you do, basically you hit Control 0 so that we come back to the normal size. At the same time, let us maximize to the core that we haven't gone somewhere. If you can see here, the info, the navigator is at 160 degrees. So you can minimize it by here, or basically you can directly go by hitting Control 0, which comes to the normal size. Right, so Control plus is for maximize, Control minus is for minimize, and Control 0 is to come back to the normal size. So let us, and always remember Control Alt Z is to undo so many things in the Photoshop. People don't forget that Control plus Alt plus Z is the most important thing that you have to remember. I'll say it to you once again in the word panel, Control plus Alt plus Z, oh I am very sorry, plus Z. So this results to undo here. Simple Control plus Z just gives you 1. For example, I'll show you. I'll open the Photoshop. I have put something, and I have given the color. So if you can see, I have given a color and I want to go back and I want to do something here. So what you can basically do, always, if you just, or else what I'll do, I'll just move this. Okay, so though it is in background, you will not be able to move it. So I'll unlock the background and then I'll move it. So I have done some mistakes, let us imagine. So now I want to go back. If I just hit Control plus Z, that's all. I mean, even if I hit more, it just happens undo and redo, but it won't go forward. I'm just putting Control and Z. I'm just hitting Control plus Z. But people, if I want to undo so many things, I mean, if you want to go back for the third thing that I have done previously, Control Alt Z. Look at here, I am able to undo all the things that I have done. So Control Alt Z is for undo things, Control Z is for quick undo and redo. So this is the Photoshop introduction, people. So let me take you with the PPT here. Where are we? So I have said you how to open a new document, as I have already showed you about the Photoshop size. And now I have already said you page size and orientation, change the page size by typing in new values, and you also have the color mode, and then yes, resolution, and then background contents. So now if you want to open anything, for example, I'll take you with the Photoshop interface once again. So we have Photoshop interface here. If you want to open anything, I mean, if you want to put up an image here in the Photoshop, you can simply go to File and open it, or by hitting Control plus O, you can open any of the images. So let us see, we have one of the images here. Oh, I'm sorry. Let us, I think we don't have images. Okay, we have one of the images here. So let us open that. So here is the image that we have opened here. Always remember, people, let the original file always be original. You know, all the time remember in the Photoshop how much importance is this, the same is this much. You know, this layers box is one of the most important things that you have to remember whenever I speak about Photoshop, because the entire work of Photoshop happens with the layer boxes. Control L is to create a new layer, obviously, or you have the button called, you know, the new layer, you know, create a new layer. Always work on the fresh layer, never work on the background. Always create a new layer and then work on it. Anyway, I'll be telling about it, so don't worry. So this is the layer box. Once you have imported an image, you have this file which have already come. So people, to open an image, just press Ctrl plus O. So we got an image, right? So this is the introduction I'm talking about. Very easy to remember. So if I want to put this, you can put it by the move tool, because if you put the cursor on that, you will get anyway the name of the tool as well. It's move tool, right? So imagine to open an image, you just have to type, or you have to press Ctrl plus O. So that is the basic thing that you have to remember in the Photoshop. So let us go back. Let us maximize it. So Ctrl O to get the, oh, it's already in the normal position. Alright, so if I am minimizing it, so how to get back? By Ctrl O. I also will mention that in the Word for you. We have Word and Control plus Control plus equal to maximize the work window Control plus minus equal to minimize the work window, and Control plus O. Okay, I'll hit 0 equal to normal setup of the work window, and then we have Control plus O. Guys, this is 0, this is O, which is to open any kind of document. Hope I am clear with the shortcuts. These are the minimal shortcuts that you have to remember when you are using Photoshop. So let us come back to the file here. So we will be speaking about each and every tools here, so no problem. Always remember, people, you just have to work on this thing. You know, this is a very mandatory thing which we call it as layer box, right? And always keep the background logged. And let me show you the next one, that is using Photoshop and how do we do that, right? So this is what is something that you have to remember. You know, what are these? In Photoshop we have main menu, you have palettes, you have color box, layers box, history box. The image, if you import, it's an image, and this is called toolbar. And we have image name that can be mentioned. So this is the basic interface on how exactly the Photoshop looks like. So this is a colored Photoshop, and this is CS8 version. If you can see, this is the interface of CS8, but we are in CS7. So the Photoshop what we are using, the thing what you can see black and white, is something called CS7, and this is the interface. We have the interface like this. All right. So you can basically put it anywhere you want. You can, you can shift it to anywhere you want. Okay. So this is what you can basically do in the Photoshop, and this is the interface of the Photoshop. So now let us start working on it, on the Photoshop. So before we go ahead and work on the Photoshop, I just want to tell you very important things. The first one is layers. So let us put it on Word. So I'll show you what is layers and their importance. So when I speak about layers and their importance, people always remember, first thing that you have to remember in the layers and its importance is, always make sure that you open a new layer before starting any work. Right, that means whenever you are working on Photoshop, people don't work on the background. Background is something which is very mandatory, and never ever work on this. That is why by default it will come logged. All right. See, if you can see, indicates layer is partially logged. And how can you unlock it? By hitting on the log button. You can basically unlock it, or by just double clicking on that you can unlock it. Alright, so I have unlocked. So now if you can see, that is no more a background. See, by default when I have unlocked it, it have gone, like the background is gone, the name called background is gone. So never ever do it, because background is very much important for any work you do on Photoshop. So always put it logged. So let us put this as a background. Let us work on new layer. So now I have put up a new layer, and now all the time new layer comes with the transparency. If you can see here, we have the transparent thing, if you can see here, the layer 1 is actually transparent. Okay, how to fill the color in the transparency, I'll show you once again. So we are at the layer 1. Let us go back there. Okay. So I'll just make this invisible, layer visibility, this thing called eye, which you can see. The eye is to make it visible or invisible. So I am basically switching off the background. Always put the background in a locked mode and invisible mode. Just work on layer 1. So now, how to fill color, how to fill color in this background by default, or always you can work on transparency, or you can put a white color and then you can work on it. So let us imagine, let us put a color. Guys, it's very easy to put a color. So let us imagine we have pale red, and let us give dark green. So we have two colors here. Always remember, Alt plus delete fills the foreground color. If you can see here, I have filled the pink, or pale pink, by pressing Alt delete, and Control delete. Control plus delete is for filling the background color on the tab. Alt delete, Control delete, Alt delete, Control delete. Once I press Control plus delete switch, we have the background color which have come. Now I'll press Alt plus delete, we have pink color which have obviously come. And you can also change the color from here, which you want to do it. So if you can see, we got this color. All right. So this is the most important thing that you have to remember. So let us go back and let us not directly jump in here. Yes, so I have come back to the background by pressing Ctrl Alt Z. I have gone back to the first thing, like first, if you can see background. So always put a new layer and then start working on this. So this is what you just have to remember in Photoshop. So this is the interface of the Photoshop, and this is how you have to work. So I have said you how to new, how to open, and then we have Shift plus Control plus O. What does, always remember that we have file browser here, which you can open. So let us go with the PPT again, because I just want you to explain. Yeah, so these are the basic panel head of the Photoshop. How do we work and what is the interface of it? And then we have menu bar, the image and palettes. So what is menu bar? If you look at the top of the screen, you will see the menu bar, which contains all the main functions of Photoshop, such as file, edit, image, layer, select, filter, analysis, 3D, view, window and help. So let me show you. So this is called the main menu bar, which is very important for you to remember, because these have lot many commands that we can do and edit. If you can see, this entire thing is called menu bar. So this thing is a menu bar. So always remember that this menu bar will help you in understanding and knowing what is Photoshop and what are the advantages and disadvantages. There are no disadvantages with the Photoshop, but if you have anything, you can find it through the disadvantages something. But if you misplace this layer box, by default you have pressed into mark here, you can find it in the window switch. Whatever we kept open, that will only, for example, you have gone and by default you have pressed the red window and this is closed, and now people will be worried how to look at a new layer. At that particular time, the only thing that you have to remember is every windows we can find here. So layers button obviously got switched off. So once you click on the layer switch, you can get the layers box back onto the Photoshop window. So this is the most important thing that you have to remember, people. If you want to add something, for example, if you want to add actions here or tool presets here or brushes here, by just clicking brushes you can add the box right away here. You can put the brushes again, close. We have brushes which have added, and if you want anything to be added, for example, let us see, we'll put styles. So styles have come here. You can basically work on styles. So that is what, these are the major important things that we have to mention, or make sure you have it towards your right side, because whatever you do it here, it will display it on the actions of your right side panel. So this is the most important thing, and this is the toolbar, people. This is the menu bar and this is the action bar. So let us go back to the palettes. So if I have shown you, the palette wall is something what we have seen already, and the palettes are the small boxes that we have seen, the command panels. We have toolbox, we have options bar, then we have menu bar. Currently we are looking at CS3 version interface, and then color switches. So basically, before working on Photoshop, you should have a basic idea on colors, because people, whenever I speak about Photoshop, what is the most important thing in Photoshop or creativity? Color matching and color choosing is the most important thing, because when you work on colors, you should have a very good grip on colors. What colors will you match? For example, if you're wearing a clothes, you work on Photoshop, you should have a very good grip on color matching, right? So color matching and color levels are the most important thing before you work on the Photoshop. You should have a grip on. So let us see here. If you can look at the screen, we have color box here where you can hit on colors, and if you go back and double click on this, you have color picker, which is very much important. And then please don't make sure that this is the only thing that you can remember. You also have custom toolbox where you can have so many gradients. You know, for example, if you go to violet, you have a lavender color, and then it comes to the brinjal color, you know, and then if you go back to the wooden brown, and then you have panic brown, and then you have if you go back to some colors, see, these are all the colors that you can find out in Photoshop. In detail, if you want to go and give color matches, you can go back to the custom, you know. So see, if I want to go to the custom of this, for example, I'll just normally choose any of the default colors, you know, by going to blue. I'll give OK, but before going to OK, I'll go with custom. So when I click the custom, whatever color I have chosen, I'll have all the pattern colors of those. Remember that, people? And you have the code for it also. For example, if I hit 34772, see, so this is a code language of the code language of the color. So sometimes when you are doing HTML web designing or something, these codes will help you. For example, I'll hit 7859, and this color is blue, isn't it? So it's very interesting. So every color have its own code language that you have to remember. If you can also type through alphabets. For example, I'll type my name KR, which is not coming, so K is not there here in the color. So I'll type A P, no P color, and then we have okay, let us type something, you know. So this is the code language of ADFABA, where in web designing you can use this color. So you know, every color have a code, you know, usually it is noted in the numbers, or you can hit what color you want in, you know, red, green and blue, because half of the colors are mixed with RGBs, and that's how you can basically mention any color. So our red color 6, 5 and 0, 5 will help you getting to the almost black color. Not almost black color, it is similar to the black color. So this is how you just have to work on this, people. Want deep colors, you can go to Pantone and you can just hit whatever colors you want, or you know, you can choose what color you want, and then you will get that color. And by applying that, simple, Alt delete for the foreground color, Control delete for the background color, as simple as it is, people. So these are the shortcuts that I just want to put it in front of you about the Photoshop. So here now let me show you the main color window. You have styles, you have switches, and you have the color, obviously, right? So I'll put it back here. So RGB is something that you have to work all the time. So here is the history of what you have done. If you can see, this is the history, and this is the layer that we are working with, and this is the A4 size paper. Never forget that this is an A4 size thing. Or if you want, you can put your own size by putting this into default Photoshop size. You know, you can basically work on default Photoshop size, and then you can put something 6, and then height if you want to be 9, resolution you want to be 1024, and yeah, let us put width as 8. See, so this is a banner style you are working on, default Photoshop size. Alright, so let us not work on this, let us work on the A4 size paper that we are working with. Alright, so this is a layer 1 that we are working with. Alright, so now what is the first tool here? We have Mark tool, and if you right click on this, is basically a selection tool on how you can basically create few selections and put a color into it, or whatever you want to create or something. We can basically select through this tool, and we have so many options that you can do it here in the Mark tool. Before I go with the Mark tool, remember the Mark tool is M. For example, if you can see, this is Move tool and this is Mark tool. So to get back to the Move tool, I'll just hit V. By clicking the V, the selection obviously have come to the move tool. If I click M, the selection have gone back to the mark tool. Alright. So this is what you just have to remember, people. So quick going in selections. Alright. So I'll come back to the move tool, that is V, because move tool is very important. This is like a selection tool in the Photoshop. Alright. So this is what you just have to remember. So today we have learned on what exactly the Photoshop introduction is and what exactly the Photoshop runs with. So here we are with one of the few defaults of the Photoshop, and here is how Photoshop's run with. So from tomorrow we'll be basically working on the tools of Photoshop. Get us introduced with the tools. From tomorrow I'll start the mark tool. So whenever I am getting the mark tool, I want everybody to be on the systems. I mean, if possible, from tomorrow everybody start sitting on computers, so that once I explain to you, you can practice, because Photoshop is a software where you have to practice for a long time to get it habituated. Alright, so thank you so much for the listening to the class, and we'll be moving forward in learning a lot of Photoshop and their uses. So I'll be taking more classes on Photoshop. So thank you so much for listening to the class and being patient in the class. Share this video if anybody is interested for Photoshop. And I'm from APSSDC.